little history of our museum here. We were founded in 1956 by a group of businessmen that wanted to preserve railroad history. In the 1950s, steam was starting to go out of style and getting replaced by diesel locomotives, much like the one that's pulling our train today. However, these guys said, hold on, wait a minute. We need to figure out a way to preserve these units for future generations so they can understand and appreciate how railroads built this nation, and kept us moving forward. So that's what they did. They brought a steam locomotive, which was known as the Milwaukee Road 261, to here what was then known as Cook Park, set it up, put it on display, and if anybody knows how collecting goes, one thing led to another. 75 years later, we have well over 80 pieces of rolling stock here at the museum. And over 100,000 different artifacts in our archives, library, and holding facilities. All kinds of stuff. So one of those really cool pieces that we have for rolling stock is, if you look over here on the side track, there's a reddish-brown piece of equipment that's got some big wings on it.
Yep.
That's known as a Jordan spreader. And a Jordan spreader would be pushed in front of a locomotive, and using air or pneumatic pressure from the brakes, they would pressurize that drum that you see on the back there, and using the air pressure from that, they would push the wings forward and down, and it would grade the sides of the track there, so you have proper drainage, because if you have a sloppy track, then trains don't stay on the rails so well. And then it will also even out any ballast or the rocks that you see on there, so even those out. And in wintertime, it came in handy as a pretty decent snowplow, you know, for that 8 months that we have snow here in Wisconsin. So. All right, behind the 2402 there, we've got a caboose, and not all cabooses are red. So some of them were brown, some were gray, some were purple, some were whatever the railroad wanted to paint them. So that's a Chicago Great Western caboose built in 1945. That little room on top of the caboose with the little windows on it, that is the cupola. Cupolas were actually invented in 1863 by Chicago Northwestern Railway, and the cupola would allow the freight conductor and his brakeman crew to look out and see an eagle's view, basically, of everything that was going on with the trains. They look for hot box axles, they would look for any derailments, they would look for, you know, something maybe ahead of the track, because as the track's curved, you can see even ahead of the locomotive, so they would use that. And in the end, they were actually the emergency brakes on the train. You see those big handles on there? Those are the manual brakes in case the air brakes blew out. So if anybody's had Amazon, UPS, FedEx come to their house in the past 2 years, long before those guys, you had a Railway Express agency. They would haul parcel freight to people's houses, well, to your town, and then they would have trucks that would bring it out. So Railway Express agency, that's how people got their goods back in the day. All right, if you're feeling especially spry and adventurous today, climb up to the top of the observation tower. It's 99 steps to the top, 99 steps back down. So remember, you want to go all the way up, you got to come all the way back down. So it's actually a beautiful day to check things out. Hey, look at those folks up there. Wait, yeah. All right, so you can see all up and down the Fox River here. You can see out towards Lambeau. You can get a good view of Green Bay.
This is what he was talking about.
All right, that building over on the interior side says National Railroad Museum. That's where we've got all of our indoor stored trains. We've got General Dwight D. Eisenhower's command train. We've got one of the big boys. We've got a Pullman Porter exhibit. All kinds of really neat stuff in there. Joseph Lister hospital car. It's our newly restored car that we've got in there. It took our shop guys about 2.5 years to work on that. Get everything. It was just a shell of a vehicle, and let me tell you, it's a beautiful car right now. So be sure to check that out. Our open air shed here. That's the McCormick Train Pavilion. We've got half a dozen steam locomotives in there, 4 diesels, 4 tracks of rolling stock. We've got some really interesting cars in there. We've got a dome diner. My favorite car in there's this red one that's got 2 big wooden barrels on it, and that is a vinegar car. So the Richter Vinegar Company out of Manitowoc, Wisconsin would haul their vinegar in wooden cars.
Oh my God.
And you're probably like, why do they have wooden tanks? Well, the acid from the vinegar would often corrode any metal tanks, so they would use wood, and basically if the wood did rot out a little bit, they would just replace that stave, put in a new one, and call it good. So that is a woodchuck. So we have woodchucks, we've got some geese. So we're a railroad museum, and sometimes it seems like animal preserve, but whatever, that's okay. So all right, we're going to be going over our